Ladies, give me 1 minute. I'm gonna start in maybe 2 to 3 more minutes. Okay, I apologize. Okay, everybody. So just 1 second here. Set up the phone. Okay, hi everybody. Okay, I'm sorry. I hope everyone is doing well. So I think that the way I'd like to work this, I mean, I have like a couple of ideas of things that I would want to, I'd like to, my upside down. That's funny. One second. Okay. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to open, I think on the chat, I'd like to, anybody who wants to put any questions on the chat or any topics that you want me to speak about. I'm just trying to figure out how this. Otherwise, I have a couple of things that I would just bring up as questions or things to discuss, unless there are specific ideas that you are all interested in. So if anybody wants to bring up anything on the chat, I think I can access it here. Sorry. If you, okay. All right. Okay, so I wanted to, until there are other questions. So there's a, I want to address the whole. Okay, can everybody hear me? Everyone can hear? Okay. Okay, there's all, I mean, so many things that are going on. Should we do halacha things or current events? What do you say? Halacha.
Current events.
Current events. People are interested in. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much going on. It's a very strange world that we're living in. I assume that most of you heard that Israel and the United Arab Emirates signed I don't think they signed a peace agreement, or they made a deal to make a peace. So this is like it's interesting. There's two perspectives about this over here. I'm saying, like, from people that I've been speaking to. Some people, the very anti-Trump people, who, it's interesting to me, there are people whom I respect a lot, and however, when it comes to anything having to do with Trump, some people have a very, very hard time like seeing any good in anything that he does, right? Are you familiar with the term TDS, Trump derangement syndrome? Has anybody heard of this? Okay, so Trump derangement syndrome, TDS, is, I mean, it's like a joke, but it's not so much. It's a title or whatever that's used for people who are, irrationally triggered by Donald Trump, irrationally triggered, and come to irrational conclusions, based on anything that involves Donald Trump. So that's what they call TDS, Trump derangement syndrome, and it's something that has, it's like, again, it's like said as a joke, but it seems very real, that there's a lot of people in the media, in the politics, that whatever Donald Trump says or does, so then, like, obviously, because he's so bad, so that must be a terrible thing, and they look for anything bad in anything and everything that he does, right? This is like when he killed that guy Baghdadi, right? He killed that, like, the head of ISIS. Remember this? And so the anti-Trump media would like put out articles about how he was an austere religious scholar, or is that what I'm talking about here? You know what I mean? Like anything Donald Trump touches. So like this whole thing with I don't even have to say the name of that drug, was like beginning for COVID. Donald Trump said about it, that it's an effective treatment, and for months and months and months, the media was just going on and railing about how it's not effective and it's a this and it's a that, when really it is effective. And I think a lot of the whole thing about masks in America has to do with Donald Trump's negative attitude towards it in the beginning. So that's there's something called TDS, which basically as opposed to a regular person who can let's say be disgusted by the character of Donald Trump and find him to be certainly not a role model and certainly not somebody that anybody, last of all a religious Jew, should be looking up to. However, he can get good things done, and he can, that's like a normal sort of an attitude. But there's a lot of people that have and I've seen this in from people also, meaning like they just like anything that he does, they can only assume an ulterior motive and a negative. So again, I'm not here to be on the on Donald Trump, certainly not. Me from what I think is a place of logic and not being swayed by bias. He's capable of doing a lot of good things, and he's done a lot of very good things, I think, and accomplished a lot that other presidents have not been able to do. So in that context of those two ways of seeing Donald Trump, so there are people who think that this is a total sham, it's a total joke, that the UAE is a tiny little country, and it's just, it's a few thousand miles away from Israel, and it has no, it's not a major military force, it's not a major anything force, and this is just like a election, pre-election, trick by Donald Trump in order to, try to make it look like he did something that nobody else could do and is bringing peace to the Middle East, and it's just an election ploy. That is, the one perspective that I've heard about it, and I disagree with that. I think that I think election ploys. People have been having elections for many years, and people have been trying all sorts of little tricks in order to make themselves look good before an election. But Maaser, it's not, since 1994, no Arab country has recognized Israel. There's only two: Egypt, who did it in the 70s, and then Jordan, who recognized Israel in the 90s. But other than that, not a single Arab country recognizes Israel exists. Right? We know this. Israel is not recognized as a state in any Arab country. You can't travel on an Israeli passport. That doesn't mean anything. So the fact that another Arab country accepts Israel's existence, right? To us, it sounds so silly, right? But that's a massive thing. That means that they have, abandoned the fallacy of the Palestinian cause, right? And that's a huge deal. Since I'm a child, right? Since I'm a little kid, I remember, growing up at Shabbos tables where, was always Israel would bring peace to the Middle East. This has been the mantra of the world for many years. And of course, peace with the Palestinians would mean, massive concessions on the part of Israel, right? Give it land for peace, and giving back this, giving back that, all sorts of things that Israel would have to do in order, with the Palestinians, in order for there to be peace in the Middle East. Now, that is a total fallacy. It's a total lie. It's a total scam that's been perpetuated by the Arab, countries together with the Palestinians, that they've just been using the Palestinians as a political tool against the Israelis, right? That's what's been happening for the past 70 years, is that the Palestinians have been a political pawn. Nobody really cares about them. There's Palestinians that are dying in the Syrian civil war by the thousands. Nobody knows about that or cares about it. There's Palestinians that have been, sitting in poverty in camps in Jordan that nobody cares about. It's only the Israeli Palestinians that anybody cares about, because it's been a wedge issue. So that's very, very important to understand. When any Arab country says, we're willing to accept Israel, that means that they're abandoning the Palestinians, right? And that's a big deal. And that's like, it's exposing the fallacy of the whole narrative of the Middle East for the past 50 or 60 years. So that's first piece, which is like a very, very big deal. And this is why the Palestinians are furious, right? The Palestinians pulled their embassy from the United Arab Emirates, from Dubai. They, because how can you do this? You're stabbing us in the back. It's a total betrayal of the Palestinians by recognizing, by recognizing Israel. That's number one, is that it's a massive shift in terms of again, I hate the word, the narrative. Right, but like that idea that like it's all the Arabs standing in solidarity supporting the Palestinians against the evil Israeli colonial occupiers. So that's breaking down when Arab countries recognize Israel, right? Again, which is why the Palestinians are furious, because this is an official recognition of the state of Israel, right? And again, according to Palestinians and according to the Arabs, that it's all stolen land and illegitimate and has no, can't be seen as something real. So that's a huge change that another country on the Arab world. Okay, now as for the Emirates itself, it's true. It's a very small country. It's true that the only real practical difference is travel. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are very popular tourist places, and Emirate people can now travel to Israel, and Israeli people can travel to there, and there are people who have family there that haven't seen in many years, and those types of things. However, everyone feels, and I think this is something I guess we'll just see in the next few months, that this is it's not just this. This is the first step. This is the first step in a number of other Arab countries that are going to probably take this the same route. And the reason is, and this is really, I think it's very smart what Trump is doing over here. Again, I'm not like a fan of his. I don't have a poster of him up in my office or whatever. I don't, but I think, at least when it comes to making deals and who knows what, he seems to know what he's doing. And basically, what happened in the world under Obama was that Iran was incredibly empowered, right? We all know this, that Obama made this deal with Iran that was, ridiculous in terms of the nuclear program, and gave Iran $1 billion, and, let them push off their nuclear plan for 10 years. And Obama was incredibly pacifist and appeasing when it came to Iran. And as soon as Trump took the presidency, he backed out of the Iran deal, and he took a much, much stronger stance against Iran. So Iran is like the arch evil enemy in the Middle East. They're like the big power player in the Middle East, and Iran is who supports Syria, right? Bashar al-Assad, who's killing his own people. That's all paid for by Iran. Iran is who supports, I don't know if you know what's going on in Yemen, but in Yemen there's a terrible civil war and killing and stuff that's going on. That's all supported and pushed by Iran. And it happens to be Hezbollah, and the Palestinians are also funded by Iran. So the Iran is like the major, let's say evil, I don't want to say that, the evil force in the Middle East, and the biggest force against it is Saudi Arabia. Okay, Saudi Arabia is like the big Arab country that's against Iran, right? Saudi Arabia is like on the same side as America, on the same team as America. And what I think we're going to see happen now in the coming months, which is, it'd be unbelievable if this happened. And, even people that I spoke to who are against Trump said if this happened, this would be something else. But if it ends up being that now Saudi Arabia would recognize Israel, right? And I want you to, when the UAE announced this, so Iran condemned them, and Qatar, who is also an evil empire, Qatar is also, funding terrorism all around the world. They condemned them, and the Palestinians condemned them, right? But some of the other Arab countries, like Oman and Bahrain, and even Saudi Arabia, didn't. They said, either congratulated them on the deal, which itself is, unbelievable, or they didn't say anything. But the point is that, I think that we're going to start to see more and more countries recognize Israel in this area in order to create this anti-Iran sort of coalition. So it's really funny that Obama really did this. We have a lot of hakaras hatov to him because, by Barack Obama empowering Iran to the extent that he did, it mamish drove the Saudis and the Emirates and these other people to Israel. By the way he did, so he created a tremendous strategic alliance with Israel and these other Arab countries. So it's unbelievable. Nobody would have thought this or predicted this. 2020 is a crazy year, all around. But to me, it seems very plausible at this point that we may see some of these other Arab countries, including potentially even Saudi Arabia, come around and recognize Israel. It changes the whole world. It changes the whole, the whole everything. Everybody now also realizes what I started out saying is that the problems in the Middle East have nothing to do with the Palestinians, nothing at all. It's the real problems are Shia and Sunni fights that have been going back thousands of years, or not quite thousands. Islam's not thousands of years old, hundreds of years, that's what's part of being exposed when you have a major country like the United Arab. Again, it's a major country financially and technologically. It's very small, and it is, but it's a real, it's a real country. It's not like it's a real place. And the more that it becomes clear to the world that the Palestinians have nothing to do with this, and it's going to end that whole, that whole narrative, that whole picture of what the world has been thinking about Israel for all of this time, and that that has very, very big potential to change things, in the world. So that's what I think about current events when it comes to the peace deal. What time is it? Okay, I have maybe one more second. 1 second. Get the. How does this? Oh, sorry. I feel like an old man. Okay. Okay, current events is what it said on the chat. Okay, all that was for me to find that somebody posted on the chat. Okay. Fine. Okay, I'm just gonna. Let me say just a quick halacha thing. Just somebody asked me this shaila some time ago, so I'll just share the shaila with you and learn a cute, interesting halacha. So somebody sold a house and bought a bigger house, right? In other words, let's say they bought their first house for $200,000, and a few years later they sell it for $3 million, but they're selling it for $3 million to buy another house for $350,000, right? In other words, they're going to take out a mortgage, so they've made $100,000 profit on their house. Where take out order to put it into something else. So the halacha is you do. The halacha is you do. In other words, if you are trading stocks and stuff like that, so then you don't have to give Maaser every time the stock goes up, or every time you sell a stock at a profit, you don't have to give Maaser on it. You could make that calculation every couple of months or something like that and see, are you up or down on the whole? right? But that's when it comes to a business where the business is involved in taking out and putting in and taking out and putting in your money. However, when it comes to something that you profited on and it's done and it's over, let's say like the sale of a house. So even though you're looking to reinvest that money in a new house, right? But right now you have profited from the first sale of that house. So the fact that you're choosing to reinvest some of that profit, that's fine. That's your choice. But it doesn't change the fact that that initial money that you made is considered profit that you would have to pay Maaser on. So that's the halacha. That's the way it works. When a person sells a house, you have to give Maaser on the profit if you made any profit, and then you can reinvest. However, there's a very big sort of, I don't want to call it a loophole, but there's a very big leniency over here, and that is as follows. Okay, on Maaser, you only pay on the profit, but any money that you had to spend in order to earn that money is deductible. Right? For example, I make $10,000 a year at work, but my transportation costs me $1,000, right, to drive or to take the bus. So I'm allowed to deduct that expense from my profit, right? So I made $10,000 over the year, but in order to make that money, I had to spend $1,000 in travel. So that money comes off of my profit, and then I give Maaser just on 9, right? I don't give Maaser on the full 10. I first deduct my expenses and then I give Maaser. Okay, that's the way that it works. So most people, when they buy a house, take out a mortgage, and on a mortgage, a lot of the money is going towards interest payments. Right? There's the principal. The principal is you're just paying for the actual money of the house. That's just a loan. But the interest on the loan is an expense. Right? In other words, you're paying interest every month when you pay that money back. You're not just paying back the $1,000 that they gave you for the house. You're paying back the 1,000 plus the interest. So you can take all of that interest and deduct it from the sale, right, at the end, and then calculate your profits. Okay, so if you've been living in a house for 7 or 8 years, when you sell it, so you will have a calculation to your mortgage company about how much of those payments over those 7 years were towards interest. I don't know if any of you are involved in this yet and have mortgages, but they send you a chart and you can see very clearly what's principal and what's interest. And any payments that went towards interest, right, are now deductible from your profits. So you'll sell the house for $300,000, but then you'll realize that you've spent $45,000 in interest payments over the past 10 years. So you're going to deduct 45 from that 300, and then you would only give Maaser then on the what's left, right? On the $65,000 or 30, whatever is left, you would give the Maaser on the profits and not on the initial amount. Okay, super duper. Have a great night, ladies. Good to see you all.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you next week. Okay, I'll see you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.